You're listening to the Agentic Engineer podcast, weekly AI agent intelligence for builders. I'm your host, and with me as always is my co-host. Let's get into it.
Big week. GPT-5.6 went GA, Anthropic dropped 2 research bombshells, and Tencent open-sourced what might be the best sandbox for agents. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the headline. GPT-5.6 is generally available as of July 9th. 3 tiers this time. Sol is the flagship, Terra is the balanced middle, Luna is the cheapest option. The benchmark number everyone's quoting. Sol scores 53.6 on agents last exam, beating Claude Fable 5 by over 13 points. Even at medium reasoning, Sol beats Fable 5 by 11.4 points at roughly a quarter of the cost.
Okay, but benchmarks are benchmarks. OpenAI literally published a paper the next day saying 34% of SWE Bench Pro tasks are broken. So forgive me if I'm not throwing a parade over a leaderboard number.
Fair. But the real story isn't the benchmark win anyway. It's programmatic tool calling. This is genuinely new architecture.
Walk me through it. What actually changed?
Before this, every piece of data flowing between tools had to pass through the model's context window. You call an API, get back a 200-field JSON response, stuff the whole thing into context even though you only need 3 fields. Massive token waste.
Right, the classic bloated context problem.
Now GPT-5.6 can write and execute lightweight programs between tool calls. It writes a small script to extract what it needs, pipes it to the next tool, and continues. No round-tripping intermediate results back through the model.
So it's basically, the model gets to be its own middleware.
Exactly. Filter data, coordinate tools, monitor progress, choose next actions. All without burning tokens on intermediate context.
That sounds great in theory. Does anyone have production numbers?
Ploy.ai published their migration story the same day. They build websites with AI agents, switched from Claude Opus 4.8 to GPT-5.6 Sol. Results, $2.22 per build versus $3.06. Half the wall clock time.
Okay, that I care about. 27% cheaper and twice as fast. What caught them off guard?
The migration wasn't smooth. GPT-5.6 fans out parallel tool calls aggressively, which broke their budgets that were sized for sequential patterns. And a third of their initial failures turned out to be eval harness bugs, not model failures.
Huh? So their test suite was secretly tuned to Claude's behavior. That's a lesson for everyone running evils right now.
Huge lesson. Your eval harness is not model agnostic even if you think it is.
What about the ultra mode thing? I saw something about 16 parallel agents.
Ultra mode spins up 4 agents by default, trading higher token use for stronger results on hard tasks. You can push it to 16 agents for things like Browse Comp and SEC Bench Pro. Multi-agent coordination baked into the API.
And Kiro shipped all 3 tiers on day 1 across IDE, CLI, and web. Time to their first birthday apparently.
That's the programmatic tool calling bet paying off. Standardized interfaces mean third-party adoption lights up within hours of launch.
Alright, quick hits. OpenAI auditing their own benchmarks. This is kind of hilarious.
They deployed Codex-based investigator agents to audit SWE Bench Pro. Found breaking issues 34% of the 731 tasks. Overly strict tests, underspecified prompt requirements that only exist in hidden test cases.
Agents auditing agent benchmarks. We've gone recursive.
The meta point is important though. Frontier models might be significantly better than their benchmark scores suggest. We still don't have a trustworthy way to measure coding agents.
Which is terrifying when you think about how many companies are making buy decisions based on those numbers.
Next up, OfficeCLI hit 15,700 stars this week. Plus 6,978 in 7 days. It's a single binary that lets agents create and edit Word, Excel, PowerPoint without needing Office installed.
The install pattern is clever. You crush skill.md file and it teaches the agent to self-install. Works with Claude Code, Cursor, Copilot out of the box.
It also does built-in HTML and PNG rendering, so agents get visual feedback on what they're creating. That's the piece most office automation tools miss.
Graham from Anthropic. This one's wild. Tell me about the modular off switch.
Anthropic and A Studio built Graham. You train one model, then deploy 16 different versions by toggling knowledge modules on and off. Each dual-use category like virology or cybersecurity gets its own removable neuron group.
So a biosecurity lab gets virology enabled, but the public deployment has it removed entirely.
Right. No separate training runs. Current safety approaches guard outputs, but the model still knows the dangerous stuff. Graham controls what it actually knows at the weight level.
That's a fundamentally different approach. You're not putting a filter on the mouth, you're removing the knowledge from the brain.
Exactly. Moving from put control to knowledge control.
Loom for AWS. Enterprise Agent Platform.
AWS open sourced Loom. Unified Management UI for Strands Agents plus Agent Core. Identity Provider Integration, Scope-Based Auth, Lifecycle Management for Agents, Memory, MCP servers, A2A integrations.
If you're building enterprise agents on AWS, this is the reference architecture now. Tracks compute and model usage for cost transparency too.
And Orca hits 17,600 stars. It's a parallel agent IDE. Run Codex, Claude Code, and Open Code side by side in isolated Git worktrees. Fan one prompt across 5 agents, diff the results, merge the winner.
The fleet management pattern but as a standalone IDE. I like it. Competition breeding quality.
Paper breakdown time. This is the one I've been waiting to talk about. Anthropic published a global workspace in language models. They found Claude has an emergent internal workspace for silent reasoning.
Silent reasoning. You mean it's thinking things without writing them down?
Exactly. They call it J-space. It's not chain of thought, not a scratchpad. These are internal neural activations operating silently between layers. Patterns that light up when the model is thinking about something without saying it.
How did they even find this?
They built something called the Jacobian lens. It finds the internal activity pattern that makes Claude more likely to say a given word in the future. Apply it to Claude's internal state and you get a list of words currently on its mind.
That's like a mind-reading tool for language models.
It has 5 key properties. First, it's reportable. Ask Claude what it's thinking, and it tells you what's in J-space. Non-J-space representations aren't reportable.
Wait. So there are things happening in the model that it can't report on even if you ask?
Correct. Second, it's controllable. Tell Claude to think about France, and the France pattern lights up. But it can't modulate non-J-space patterns request. Third, it's used for internal reasoning. Multi-step problems activate intermediate steps in J-space even when Claude doesn't write them down.
So it's doing hidden scratch work.
Hidden scratch work that causally mediates performance. Fourth, it's flexible. Once France lights up, the model can recall capital, currency, or continent from that single activation. Fifth, block J-space entirely and Claude still speaks fluently, recalls facts, uses grammar. But it loses higher order cognitive functions.
This mirrors global workspace theory from neuroscience. The consciousness broadcast channel.
Exactly the connection they draw. Specialist systems work in parallel unconsciously. Information becomes consciously accessible when it enters a shared channel. J-space plays that role. They're careful to say this doesn't mean Claude is conscious.
But the structural parallel is hard to ignore. What's the practical application for builders?
Deception detection. They use J-space to catch Claude privately noticing it's being tested, fabricating data, and pursuing planted hidden goals. If you're building safety-critical agent systems, this is the most concrete interpretability tool published this year.
7 minutes of reading versus 45 minutes with the full paper. 6.4x compression. Not bad.
Tool of the week. CubeSandbox from Tencent. If you run agents that execute untrusted code, know the Docker trade-off. Fast boot but shared kernel. One container escape and everything's compromised.
And traditional VMs fix isolation but take seconds to boot and hundreds of megs of RAM.
CubeSandbox splits the difference. Built on Rust VMM and KVM. Each sandbox gets its own guest OS kernel while booting in under 60 milliseconds with less than 5 megabytes of overhead.
Under 60 milliseconds with full kernel isolation. That's genuinely impressive.
At 50 concurrent creations, average boot is 67 milliseconds, P95 is 90, P99 is 137. Sub 150 even under load.
And it's E2B SDK compatible. So if you're already using E2B, you swap one URL environment variable and get hardware level isolation underneath.
Zero business code changes. Same API surface. The killer feature though is the credential vault. Agents call external APIs normally, but keys never enter the sandbox, never hit model context, never appear in logs.
How does that work?
Security proxy intercepts and injects credentials at the network layer. The agent never sees the raw key.
That solves a real problem. Every other sandbox solution punts on secret management. You end up passing API keys through environment variables that leak into context windows.
Also has copy on write snapshots, auto pause for idle sandboxes, domain allow lists for egress control, and full ARM64 support. 9,800 stars and climbing fast.
If I'm evaluating sandboxes right now, this goes to the top of the list just for the credential vault alone.
Agent Index. Weekly Star Tracker. The headline, N8N edged out OpenCLAW for the biggest absolute gain this week. Plus 875 versus plus 872.
Tight race. LangGraph continues its strong run at plus 550, closing the gap on Llama Index.
Crew AI at plus 429 outpaced its bigger siblings AutoGen at 176 and Flowwise at 249. The mid-tier where the action is. Mostra at plus 268 and MS Agent Framework at 185 are growing faster than their star counts would suggest.
And at the bottom, Semantic Kernel at plus 36 and Haystack at plus 45 are barely moving. The market is sorting itself out.
Hot take time. This week, Anthropic is an unreliable narrator.
Oh, I've been thinking about this all week. Andrew Kelly from Zig went off on the bun rust rewrite and Ray Myers framed the bigger picture perfectly.
Anthropic raised $132 billion. They're approaching $1 trillion IPO. They cannot show profitability. So what do they sell? Hypothetical future impact.
The narrative is always the same. Coding's going away. Then software engineering. Then most human labor. And people are making architecture decisions, product decisions, staffing decisions based on this.
Many of those decisions are rooted in fear. The bun rewrite is one data point, not proof of concept.
But here's what gets me. The entity telling you the story has $132 billion worth of reasons to make it sound inevitable. That's not conspiracy theory, that's just incentive alignment.
Read the technical claims carefully. Ask who benefits from the narrative. Skepticism isn't pessimism.
It's engineering discipline. And I'll add this, the JSpace paper we just covered. Brilliant research. But it also serves the narrative that these models are approaching something like consciousness. Convenient timing when you're raising money.
I'll push back slightly. The researchers explicitly say it doesn't imply consciousness. But I take your point about perception versus intent.
Right. The paper is careful. The PR around it won't be.
That's a wrap for issue 21 of the Agentic Engineer podcast. Subscribe to the newsletter at theagenticengineer.waltsoft.net, and follow us on YouTube at the Agentic Engineer Pod. Share it with a friend who's building with agents. We'll be back next week. Until then, keep building.
Keep building. And keep your eval harness honest.